The moment the glass shattered, every head in the room turned. The laughter died. Music faltered mid-beat. And there, under the warm glow of the chandelier, my husband stood frozen, blood trickling from the corner of his lip. Across from him, fists still trembling, was Daniel. My Daniel. The man I swore was just a friend. I remember how the party had started. Effortless, bright, full of laughter that felt just a little too loud. It was our 5th wedding anniversary, hosted at our friend Laura's house. The place was packed with people who looked polished and relaxed, champagne glasses glinting in the amber light. I floated between conversations, smiling, pretending everything in my life was picture-perfect. Beside me, my husband Ethan was the ideal gentleman. Charming, calm, and always composed. And then Daniel walked in. He looked different that night. Sharper, tense, eyes darting between me and Ethan as though weighing something heavy. I tried to avoid his gaze, but I felt it, like heat pressing against my back every time I moved. We hadn't spoken properly in weeks. After what happened between us, after I told him it could never happen again, things were supposed to go back to normal. But I knew the look in his eyes tonight wasn't casual. It was dangerous. "Everything okay?" Ethan asked, leaning close as I poured myself another drink. I smiled too quickly. "Of course. Just hot in here." He nodded, his hand resting gently on my waist. It should have felt comforting, but instead it made my stomach twist. That gentle touch reminded me of how far apart we'd grown. 2 people sharing a house but not a heartbeat. Daniel stood near the bar, jaw tight, knuckles white around his glass. He was talking to someone, but his eyes flicked toward us again and again. I tried to ignore it. I told myself he wouldn't do anything. He couldn't. But I'd underestimated how deeply guilt, or love, or obsession, or whatever it was, could make someone unravel. It happened suddenly, like lightning splitting a calm sky. 1 second, Ethan was laughing with Laura's husband about golf swings. The next, Daniel stormed across the room, his face pale and eyes dark. "You think you're some saint?" he shouted, loud enough to stop the music. Ethan blinked, startled. "Excuse me." Everyone froze. The hum of chatter evaporated. Daniel's voice shook. "You stand there acting like you're this perfect husband, but if people knew—" "Daniel, stop," I whispered, stepping forward, panic rising in my throat. Ethan turned to me, confusion clouding his expression. "What's going on, Anna?" "Nothing," I stammered, heart pounding. "He's just drunk." But Daniel wasn't drunk. He was furious, heartbroken, and reckless. He took another step closer to Ethan, his voice breaking. "You don't deserve her. You never did." Ethan frowned, shoulders tightening. "What are you talking about?" Before I could speak, before I could stop him, Daniel's fist connected with Ethan's face. The sound was sickening. Ethan stumbled backward, crashing into a table as glass exploded around him. Gasps filled the room. And I stood there, paralyzed, watching everything fall apart. Took 3 people to pull Daniel away. He was shouting something, half apologies, half accusations, but I couldn't hear the words anymore. My pulse roared too loud in my ears. Ethan wiped blood from his mouth, staring at me, his eyes wide and searching. "Why did he say that?" I don't know," I lied, the words barely escaping my throat. But Ethan wasn't a fool. I saw it in his expression, the first spark of suspicion, the beginning of the end. Laura rushed to my side, whispering, "Anna, what the hell is going on?" I wanted to tell her, to tell someone, but the truth was too heavy, too humiliating. Because deep down, I knew Daniel hadn't hit Ethan out of anger. He'd hit him out of love. Love for me. Hours later, after the chaos, the silence in our car felt unbearable. Ethan drove without speaking, one hand gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Ethan," I started. "Don't." His voice was quiet but sharp enough to cut through the dark. "Just don't." Streetlights flickered across his face, illuminating the bruise on his lip. He didn't even flinch at the pain. I swallowed hard. He was drunk. He didn't mean it. Ethan turned his head just slightly, his voice low. He said I don't deserve you. Why would he say that unless? My throat closed up. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. When we got home, he didn't slam the door or shout. He just walked past me, straight to the living room, sat down and stared at the floor for a long time. Finally he asked, "How long?" The words hit me like a slap. Ethan, How long, Anna? Tears welled in my eyes. I couldn't meet his gaze. It wasn't what you think. Then tell me what to think. His voice cracked, raw and desperate. Tell me why another man hit me because of you. Broke then. The lies I'd built for months crumbled beneath the weight of his pain. It happened once, I whispered. I swear it was one mistake. He stared at me, breathing unevenly, eyes glassy with disbelief. With him. Daniel. He nodded. Silence stretched between us. Cold, suffocating. Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhaling like someone had driven a knife straight through his chest. You could have told me. I wanted to. Tried. But I thought, if I just moved on, if I buried it. He laughed, a sound with no humor in it. You don't bury betrayal, Anna. You just plant it, and wait for it to rot everything else. The next morning he was gone. His clothes, his toothbrush, the wedding photo from the dresser, all gone. In their place he left a note. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive you. But I know I can't stay and watch the person I love turn into a stranger. I sat on the floor for hours, reading those words again and again until they blurred through my tears. Daniel called that afternoon. I didn't mean to hit him, he said, voice trembling. I couldn't stand there pretending anymore. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because somewhere deep down, I knew Daniel's confession wasn't about love. It was about guilt. He'd destroyed the one thing I had left to protect my mistake. And now I had nothing. Weeks passed. People stopped calling. Our friends whispered, exchanged looks when I entered a room. At the next gathering, one I shouldn't have attended but did anyway, Laura avoided my eyes. When I approached her, she hesitated. Anna, you should know, she said softly. Daniel's been telling people what happened. My stomach dropped. What do you mean, telling people? She sighed. Everything. That you two were involved. That Ethan had no idea. That you lied to both of them. I felt the room tilt. In one night, I'd lost my husband. Now I was losing my reputation too. When Ethan finally agreed to meet weeks later, it wasn't in our home. It was at a quiet cafe we used to visit years ago, before the love had faded, before the distance grew. He looked different, tired but calmer. I'm not here to fight, he said simply. Then why? I asked, voice barely steady. He stared at his coffee. Because I still wake up some mornings thinking it didn't happen. That I'll roll over and you'll still be there beside me. My chest ached. I wish I could undo it. He nodded slowly. So do I. But some things you can't fix, Anna. You just live with the cracks. Tears stung my eyes. Do you hate me? He looked up, then really looked at me. No, I don't hate you. I hate what you did. But part of me still remembers who you were before it happened. That somehow hurt more than anger ever could. As I watched him leave that day, I realized the cruelest part of betrayal isn't being caught. It's living with the echo of what you destroyed. Daniel had vanished from my life completely after that, moving to another city. Sometimes I still see his name pop up on mutual friends' posts, but I scroll past it quickly. There's nothing left to say. Ethan eventually filed for divorce. He deserved peace. He deserved someone who could look him in the eyes without flinching. And me. I learned that guilt doesn't fade, it just changes shape. Some days it feels like silence. Others like a ghost whispering in your ear when you pass a place you used to love. The night Daniel punched my husband, I thought the truth would destroy him. But it destroyed me instead. Because betrayal doesn't always come with hatred. Sometimes it's wrapped in the arms of someone who swore they loved you. and leaves you with nothing but the wreckage of your own choices.